Kale was no ordinary boy, living alone in the small, isolated village by the river. He had grown used to the silence that surrounded him. He didn't mind it, though. It was peaceful, a place where he could think and dream of faraway adventures. His parents had died when he was very young, leaving him with only memories and the river as his companion. Some days, Kale would wander into the dense forests or sit by the water, watching it flow endlessly. He was alone, but the quiet made him feel free. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Kale noticed something strange. A figure appeared near the riverbank, partially hidden by the trees. At first, he thought it was just a shadow or maybe an animal. But as he looked closer, his heart skipped a beat. The figure wasn't human. It was much taller, with skin that shimmered like the night sky, glowing faintly with an eerie blue hue. Kel's curiosity got the best of him, and without thinking, he approached the mysterious figure. The closer he got, the clearer it became. The being wasn't just strange in appearance, it was in pain. The alien figure, with its long, flowing robes, was struggling to move, its steps uneven and hesitant. There was something deeply unsettling about the way it moved, almost as if it was being held back by invisible forces. Kel's heart raced. Was it hurt? Should he help? He had heard stories of creatures from the stars, but never had he seen one in person. His mind spun with questions. Who was this being? What was it doing here? How had it come to be so far from home? The alien's deep, otherworldly eyes flickered with recognition as it saw Kale approach. It opened its mouth, but the words were foreign, incomprehensible. Kale stepped forward cautiously, unsure of what to do. The being's eyes seemed to plead for help, but the language barrier left him uncertain. Just then, the alien stumbled and nearly collapsed by the water's edge. Kel's instincts kicked in. He rushed forward, offering his hand to steady the creature. The alien's skin felt oddly warm against his palm. Its frail, aged body was trembling as if every movement caused immense pain. Despite its otherworldly appearance, the creature's suffering was very real. It made Kale feel uneasy, a strange mix of fear and empathy rising in him. "Can I help?" Kale whispered, not expecting a response. To his surprise, the alien made a faint gesture, nodding slowly. Its alien eyes bored into Kel's, almost as if communicating a silent message. Kale had never seen anything like this before. This creature, this being from the stars, needed help. The boy was faced with an impossible choice. Should he leave the alien to its fate, or should he take the risk and offer his assistance? The river rushed beside them, its current strong and unrelenting. The alien looked towards it, as if it had no choice but to cross. Kale swallowed his fear and made a decision. He would help. Whatever this creature was, it was in need, and Kale couldn't just walk away. With every step, Kale felt a growing sense of responsibility. He gently guided the alien closer to the water's edge, the cold, swift currents crashing at their feet. The alien's frailty made it difficult to move, but Kel's grip was firm. He wouldn't let go. The moment they entered the water, the alien let out a low groan, as if the cold river was making its pain worse. The air was thick with tension, and Kel's mind raced. Could he get them both across safely? But as Kale struggled to keep his footing in the slippery riverbed, something even more unsettling happened. The alien's body began to glow brighter, its energy surging in a way Kale hadn't seen before. The glow was faint but unmistakable. What was happening? Kale could feel his heart pounding in his chest. Was this a sign of danger, or was it a sign of hope? Everything seemed uncertain in that moment, but one thing was clear. Kale had made his choice. He would help the alien, no matter what. The mystery of this encounter was only just beginning, and Kale knew that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. As they stepped further into the river, Kale could only wonder what lay ahead for them both and what secrets the alien might hold. Kel's heart raced as he guided the alien elder deeper into the river. The water grew colder and the current stronger, but the boy's determination kept him moving forward. The alien's frail body leaned heavily on Kale, and with each step, the burden seemed to grow. He could feel the heat radiating from the creature's skin, an unsettling warmth that contrasted with the chilling river around them. The elder's eyes were locked on Kale, filled with a strange mix of gratitude and something Kale couldn't quite place a sense of urgency. As if time was running out, the river was treacherous, its fast-moving waters threatening to pull them under. Kel's legs burned with the effort to keep them both steady. The current was fierce, tugging at his ankles, but the boy pressed on. He could hear the sound of the rushing water in his ears, drowning out everything else. The world around him seemed to narrow down to just the alien elder and the river, a swirling, dangerous world where everything depended on his ability to cross safely. Suddenly, the elder let out a weak, guttural sound, a noise that startled Kale. The alien's hand gripped Kel's arm tightly, as though warning him of something ahead. Kale paused for a moment, looking around, but there was nothing. The river stretched out in both directions, and the trees along the bank swayed in the wind. But the elder's grip tightened, and Kale could feel the tension in the air. Something was coming. Kel's eyes darted to the alien's face. The elder's skin had begun to glow brighter, the faint blue light pulsing like a heartbeat. The light seemed to grow with each passing moment, intensifying until Kale could no longer ignore it. It was as if the alien was drawing on some kind of energy from the river itself, an unseen power that Kale couldn't understand. The air around them seemed to shimmer, and Kale felt a strange weight pressing down on him. He wasn't just helping the alien cross the river anymore, he was part of something much bigger, something far beyond his understanding. "Hold on," Kale whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was reassuring, the alien or himself. The water was up to his waist now, and the current was becoming harder to fight. Kale gritted his teeth and kept moving, each step a battle against the river's pull. The alien elder's glowing body seemed to flicker like a dying star, its light dimming and flaring unpredictably. Kale could feel his own strength waning, but he couldn't stop. Not now. And then, as if the river itself had heard Kale's thoughts, a powerful surge of water struck them from behind. Kale stumbled, nearly losing his balance. The alien's hand shot out, steadying him just in time. He looked down, startled to see the alien's arm glowing even brighter, a beacon in the chaos. For a moment, the river seemed to part around them, as if the water was pushing them forward instead of dragging them down. Kel's breath caught in his throat as he realized what was happening. The alien was somehow controlling the flow of the river, using its energy to guide them through the danger. The elder's power wasn't just in its physical form. It was in its connection to the elements, to the land itself. Kale couldn't believe what he was seeing, but there was no time to question it. The current began to slow, and with one final step, they reached the far bank, exhausted. Kale collapsed to his knees, feeling the weight of the river's battle on his body. The alien elder sank to the ground beside him, its glowing light fading to a soft, steady glow. The silence that followed was deafening. Kel's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath. His mind raced with 1,000 questions, but there was no time to ask them. The elder's eyes met his once more, filled with gratitude, but also a deep sorrow. The air between them shifted, and Kale knew in that moment that this was only the beginning. The elder had something important to tell him, something that would change the course of both their lives. But Kale couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. The alien had a purpose, and now, it seemed, Kale was part of that purpose too. Kale sat in silence beside the alien elder, both of them drenched from the river's cold grip. The air between them crackled with an energy that Kale couldn't explain. The alien's once glowing skin had dimmed, but there was still something powerful about it, something otherworldly. The elder, though exhausted, seemed at peace for the moment, as if the trial they had just faced had bonded them in some way Kale couldn't understand. After a long pause, the elder finally spoke. The words were strange, their tone deep and ancient. Kale couldn't comprehend the language, but the expression in the elder's eyes was clear. It was a mixture of gratitude and urgency, as if the alien wanted to communicate something vital, but didn't know where to begin. Suddenly, the elder reached out, placing its hand on Kel's arm. The touch was soft, yet it sent a shock of energy through him. The world seemed to shift as the elder's gaze locked with his, and in that instant, Kale felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility, as if the fate of something much greater than himself was now tied to his actions. He had no idea what it meant, but deep down, he knew that this encounter was no accident. Kale. The alien's voice rang in his mind, not through words, but through a feeling. It was more of a thought and idea, something Kale could grasp without understanding how. He blinked, unsure of what had just happened, but the alien's eyes never left his. And he understood. The elder's name was Zoroth, and Zoroth had come from a distant star system. The tribe he belonged to was ancient, and its survival depended on something Kale had just unknowingly helped start. Kel's heart raced. He was hearing the alien's thoughts. The realization hit him like a wave. This wasn't just a random encounter. Zoroth's appearance here, at this moment, was meant to happen. The elder's prophecy, the one spoken of in whispers amongst the alien tribe, had been about Kale all along. Zoroth's mind voice was calm, but Kale could sense the weight behind it. The boy who helps. The boy who bridges. You are chosen, Kale. You have crossed the river, not just in body, but in destiny. Kel's head spun with confusion. Destiny? Chosen for what? His own voice came out shaky, unsure if he was even speaking the words aloud. Zoroth's gaze softened. To unite. Two worlds will clash, and you will stand between them. You are the key. The prophecy speaks of one who would cross the great waters and become a bridge between the stars and the earth. You are the one. Kale stared at the elder, trying to process the flood of information. I'm just a boy, he said, his voice filled with disbelief. I'm no hero. I'm no key to anything. I'm just me. Zoroth's glowing eyes held him in place. You are more than you think. You have already begun, Kale. The river, the prophecy. The tribes, you are part of a larger story, one that cannot be undone. The alien elder stood with a slow, deliberate movement, its frailty forgotten for the moment. Kale watched, still stunned by the revelations. There was so much more to this encounter than he could have ever imagined. And yet, there was one thing that lingered in the back of his mind. Zoroth's warning. There will be danger. Zoroth's voice echoed through Kel's thoughts again. You must be ready. The tribe will test you. The trials will begin soon. Kale felt a cold shiver run down his spine. What trials? What dangers were coming? Before he could ask another question, Zoroth turned away, walking toward the distant horizon where a new day was beginning to rise. The sun was peeking over the edge of the trees, casting a golden light on everything it touched, and Kale, standing alone in this foreign world, was beginning to realize just how far his life was about to change. The journey had only just begun. Kale followed Zoroth in a daze, his mind still reeling from the alien elder's words. The world around him seemed to blur as he tried to make sense of everything. A part of him wanted to dismiss it all, to return to the quiet life he had known, where the only challenge was surviving the harsh seasons by the river. But another part of him, the part that had made him help the alien, in the first place, felt something stirring inside him. Something bigger than himself, something he couldn't ignore. The journey to Zoroth's tribe was longer than Kale had anticipated. The forest grew thicker with each step, the trees towering high above them like silent sentinels. The sounds of the river faded into the background as they ventured deeper into the wilderness. The air was heavy with an otherworldly energy, and Kale could feel it pulsing. Like the heartbeat of the earth itself, Zoroth led the way with surprising strength. Despite his apparent frailty, his movements were slow but deliberate, as if every step was calculated, every gesture meaningful. Kale couldn't help but feel awe toward the elder. Zoroth wasn't just an alien. He was something ancient, something beyond Kel's understanding. And yet, here he was, walking beside Kale as if they were equals. As they walked, Kel's curiosity got the better of him. Why me? He asked quietly, his voice cutting through the thick silence. Why did you say I'm the one? What am I supposed to do? Zoroth's glowing eyes flicked toward him, the alien's expression unreadable. For a moment, Kale thought the elder wouldn't answer. But then he spoke in a voice that was both soft and commanding. You are more than just a boy. Kale, you carry the potential to unite worlds, to change the fate of both your people and mine. The prophecy speaks of one who will stand at the crossroads of two cultures, two destinies. But what it doesn't say is that the choice is yours. What you decide will shape the future. Kel's head swam with the weight of those words. A crossroads, the future. How could a simple orphan boy, who had never done anything more heroic than help an alien elder across a river, be the one to decide the fate of worlds? They came to a clearing, and Kale stopped in his tracks. Ahead of them stood a circle of towering stone structures, unlike anything he had ever seen. The stones were arranged in a perfect circle, each one covered in intricate markings that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. The air around the stones hummed with energy, like a powerful force was contained within. Zorath turned to Kale, his face somber. "This is where it begins. The trials, the tests. You will be judged by my people, Kale. You must prove yourself worthy of the prophecy. They will not trust you at first, and they will question your purpose here. But you must stand strong. The future of both our worlds depends on it." Kel's heart pounded in his chest as he looked at the stones. The pressure of the situation seemed to build with every passing second. He wasn't just helping a wounded alien anymore, he was part of something much larger. Something he didn't fully understand. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Kale muttered, feeling the weight of the elder's words settling on his shoulders. "What if I fail?" Zorath's gaze softened. "The path ahead will not be easy, but the greatest strength lies in the heart of those who refuse to give up. You have already shown that you are capable of making difficult choices. That is why you were chosen." Kale swallowed hard, his mind racing. The stone circle before him seemed to pulse with a life of its own, and he knew in that moment that nothing in his life would ever be the same. The trials were about to begin, and Kale had no idea what he was truly capable of. But one thing was clear: he couldn't turn back now. The future was waiting for him, and it was up to him to shape it. The atmosphere around the stone circle was thick with anticipation as Kale stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. Zorath stood beside him, silent and still, as though the weight of the moment had settled upon him too. The alien elder's glowing eyes were fixed on the stone structures, as if he could see something Kale couldn't. But Kel's focus was elsewhere, on the strange, vibrating energy in the air, and the feeling that something was about to happen, something that would change everything. The ground beneath Kel's feet seemed to hum, a low, steady vibration that he could feel in his bones. It was as if the stones themselves were alive, reacting to their presence. The energy in the air grew stronger, pulling at Kel's senses. He felt his skin tingle, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. He wanted to look away, but something in the air held his gaze steady. Without warning, a figure appeared in the center of the stone circle. It was tall and imposing, covered in dark, shimmering armor. The figure moved with fluid grace, its steps making no sound as it approached. Kale instinctively took a step back, unsure of what to expect. Was this the first of the trials? The figure's face was hidden beneath a dark hood, and Kale could feel its eyes on him. Even though he couldn't see them, "You have come to prove yourself," the figure's voice echoed, deep and powerful. "But words mean nothing here. Only actions will reveal your true worth." Kale swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the figure's gaze even more intensely now. He wasn't sure what to say or do, but Zorath, standing quietly beside him, placed a hand on his shoulder, as though silently offering encouragement. "Your first trial begins now," the figure continued. "You will face the creatures of the forest, the ones that have haunted my people for centuries. Only by defeating them will you prove your worth." Kel's stomach dropped. "Creatures? What kind of creatures?" He looked to Zorath, but the elder didn't offer any answers. The alien just nodded, his expression unreadable. Before Kale could say another word, the air around them shifted. The ground trembled, and the trees at the edge of the clearing rustled. From the dark shadows of the forest, 3 massive figures emerged. They were unlike anything Kale had ever seen, towering over him with jagged, spiked bodies and glowing red eyes. The creatures looked like nightmares made flesh. Their long, twisted limbs moved with terrifying speed, their claws scraping against the ground like a weapon being drawn. Kel's breath caught in his throat. His first instinct was to run, but he couldn't move. The creatures were fast, and they were closing in on him. The air seemed to freeze, and for a moment, time felt like it had stopped. Zorath's voice cut through the tension. "You are not alone, Kale. You have the strength of your will and the power of the prophecy. Trust in yourself." Kale blinked, trying to steady his racing heart. The creatures were getting closer, their eyes gleaming with hunger. He had to act and fast. He looked down at his hands, his mind racing for a solution. What could he do? He was just a boy with no special powers. How could he defeat these monsters? Then, something unexpected happened. Kel's skin began to tingle again. The same strange energy he had felt when Zoroth had first touched him. His body seemed to respond, instinctively drawing on a power he hadn't known existed. His hands crackled with energy, and a surge of heat coursed through his veins. Without thinking, Kale thrust his hands forward. The energy burst from his fingertips, sending a shockwave toward the creatures. They howled in pain, recoiling as the force hit them. Kale felt a surge of relief, but it was short-lived. The creatures were still coming, angrier now. But Kel's confidence grew. This was his trial, his moment to prove that he was capable, that he could protect those around him. Even if he didn't fully understand his power, the battle that followed was a blur of motion. Kale used the energy that now surged through him, his body reacting to each movement like it was second nature. He ducked and dodged, using his newfound abilities to push back the creatures. Every strike felt like it was powered by something greater than himself, something ancient and unstoppable. His mind raced as the creatures fought back, but Kale refused to give up. He would face them head-on. Finally, with one last burst of energy, Kale sent the creatures stumbling back into the trees, their growls fading into the distance. Kale stood there, panting, his hands trembling from the exertion. The clearing was silent once more, save for his ragged breathing. The figure in the center of the stone circle stepped forward, its gaze steady on Kale. "You have proven yourself worthy," it said. "You have faced your fear, and you have shown strength. This is just the beginning." Kale could hardly believe what he had just done. He had survived the trial, but there was still so much more to come. The future, it seemed, was in his hands now, and Kale was ready to face. Kale stood in the aftermath of the battle, his body sore, and his breath coming in heavy gasps. The creatures were gone, but the strange, pulsing energy that had flowed through him during the fight still lingered in his veins, making his limbs feel heavy and his thoughts muddled. He had never experienced anything like it, like he had tapped into something ancient, something primal. The air around him still hummed with the remnants of the power he had unleashed, and for a moment, he wondered if it was only the beginning of what he was capable of. Zoroth stood silently beside him, his gaze steady and unreadable. Kale wanted to say something, to ask what the elder thought of his victory, but the words stuck in his throat. He was still processing everything that had happened. Since he first laid eyes on the alien, everything that had led him here. The alien elder had said he was the key to something larger, something more significant than he could ever have imagined. But now, after the trial, Kale didn't feel like a hero. He didn't feel like the one who was supposed to unite two worlds. He felt like a boy who had just survived something he had no business surviving. Without a word, Zoroth turned and started walking toward the stone circle at the center of the clearing. Kale hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to follow, but the feeling in his chest told him he had no choice. He had to follow, even if he didn't fully understand why. The moment Kale stepped into the stone circle, the air shifted. The ground beneath his feet seemed to vibrate, and the stones themselves began to glow, their ancient symbols lighting up one by one. It was as if the circle itself had come alive, responding to their presence. Kale felt his heart quicken, his pulse rising as the energy in the air seemed to build, growing stronger with each passing second. There was something else here, something powerful, and Kale could feel it drawing him in. Zoroth reached the center of the circle and turned to face Kale. The elder's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and his voice was low but filled with meaning. "You have passed the first trial, Kale, but this is not the end. This is only the beginning of what you must face. The tribe will test you further, and they will not be kind. They will question your purpose here, your worth, but you must remain strong. You must prove to them, and to yourself, that you are the one who can bridge the gap between our worlds." Kel's heart sank as he heard Zoroth's words. He had expected something, but not this. He had expected a sense of triumph, of being celebrated for what he had just accomplished. But instead, Zoroth's words left him with a sense of foreboding, as if the challenges ahead were far greater than anything he had faced so far. "The tribe will look at you with suspicion," Zoroth continued. "They do not trust humans. You must show them that you are worthy of their respect, that you can stand beside them, not as an outsider, but as one of their own. Kale looked down at his hands, still tingling from the energy he had unleashed. He didn't know if he was ready for this, for the challenges that lay ahead. He was just a boy, a lonely orphan who had never known anything but the quiet riverbank and the peaceful isolation of his village. But now everything had changed. Now he was caught in the middle of something much larger, something that could affect the fate of two worlds. Zoroth's voice broke through his thoughts. Do not doubt yourself, Kale. You have already proven that you have the strength within you. You are capable of much more than you realize, but you must trust in that strength. The tribe will not make it easy for you, but if you stand firm, if you show them your heart, they will see you for what you are, a true ally. Kale nodded slowly, still feeling the weight of Zoroth's words pressing down on him. He wasn't sure if he was ready for what was coming, but one thing was certain: he couldn't turn back now. There was no turning back from the path he had chosen, no going back to the quiet life by the river. The future was waiting for him, and it was up to him to shape it. As Kale looked up at the alien elder, he saw something in Zoroth's eyes, something more than just ancient wisdom. It was a flicker of hope, the kind of hope that comes from knowing that, no matter how uncertain the path ahead might be, there is always a chance for something greater, a chance to make a difference. And in that moment, Kale realized that he wasn't just a boy anymore. He was part of something bigger than he could ever have imagined. Kale stood on the edge of the stone circle, staring into the darkening sky. The weight of everything that had happened pressed down on him, but now, something had shifted within him. He had crossed the river. He had fought creatures of nightmares, and now he was standing on the precipice of something greater than he had ever dreamed. The trials weren't over yet. They had only just begun. The air was still, the wind barely moving through the trees. Kale could feel the energy in the ground beneath him, as if the earth itself was waiting, watching. Zoroth stood a few paces away, his presence calm but firm, as if he too was anticipating what would come next. Your final test is ahead, Kale. Zoroth's voice was steady, but there was a note of gravity in it that made Kale's stomach tighten. The tribe will no longer test your strength, but your heart, your ability to lead, to unite. Kale wasn't sure he was ready for this. He was just a boy who had done nothing but help an elder across a river, who had fought for survival against creatures he couldn't comprehend, who had been thrust into a role he didn't understand. But Zoroth's words echoed in his mind. The prophecy speaks of one who bridges two worlds. Kale closed his eyes, trying to center himself. He had felt the power surge through him during the trials, a power he still didn't fully understand. But the thought of facing the tribe now, of proving himself worthy, made him question whether he was truly capable. What if they didn't believe him? What if the tribe rejected him, the outsider? Zoroth's presence seemed to calm the storm inside. Kale and the elder spoke again, softer this time, as though sensing his doubt. You are not alone, Kale. You never were. Trust in the strength that has carried you through. Trust in your heart. The words resonated with Kale as he took a deep breath. The doubt still lingered, but it was slowly being replaced by something else, something stronger. Determination. He had helped Zoroth. He had fought for his life. Now, it was time to fight for something bigger, for the future. The alien tribe approached, their faces cold and unreadable. The warriors, tall and strong, watched Kale with suspicious eyes, their postures defensive. But as Zoroth stepped forward and nodded to Kale, the tension in the air shifted. Slowly, Kale moved toward them, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but he knew one thing: he couldn't back down. The future of two worlds depended on him, and he wasn't about to let that slip through his fingers. The tribe's leader, a towering figure with dark, ornate armor, stepped forward and regarded Kale with a long, measured gaze. You have faced the trials of strength, of courage, the leader said, his voice deep and resonant. But there is one last trial left for you: to stand before us as an equal, to prove that your heart is strong enough to carry the weight of the prophecy. Kale stood tall, his mind racing. This wasn't about strength anymore. It wasn't about the energy he could summon or the battles he had won. It was about who he was, who he could become. And in that moment, As the tribe watched him with eyes full of uncertainty, Cale understood. He had to show them who he was, not the boy who had once been alone by the river, not the boy who had stumbled through the trials. He had to show them that he was someone who could be trusted, someone who could bring their worlds together, someone who could unite the very forces that had once seemed so distant, so separate. With that realization, Cale stepped forward, his eyes meeting the leaders. "I am ready," he said, his voice clear and strong. "I may not have all the answers, but I will do whatever it takes. I will fight for both of our worlds." The leaders' eyes softened, and for a moment there was silence. Then, slowly, the tribe began to lower their weapons. Cale had done it. He had earned their respect, not through power, but through the strength of his heart. And in that moment, Cale realized that he had truly become the bridge between two worlds. The future had always been uncertain, but for the first time, Cale felt sure of one thing: he was ready.